Yes, I'm thrilled to have Mike Taylor, CEO of Knox Education Foundation, and Lawson, Chief Development Officer, speaking to you today. Personally, I had the opportunity to work for the precursor to the Knox Education Foundation, which was called Great Schools Partnership, and it was probably one of the leading motivators in getting me to eventually run for school board besides Lynn Fugit. So I'm excited to hear what Knox Education Foundation is doing now. Mike Taylor attended UT Knoxville and then earned a master's in public administration from Gardner-Webb University. He has over 30 years of nonprofit experience, including 15 years of leadership in the education foundation industry. Prior to joining KEF, do y'all call it KEF? Okay, I thought it was called KEF. In 2023, he served as CEO of the Henrico Education Foundation in Richmond, Virginia, and executive director of the Mountain Education Foundation in Signal Mountain, Tennessee. He's an East Tennessee native, so we're glad he was drawn back here and has 3 children with his wife, Julie, and he just shared with me his son is a first-year teacher at Central High School, so he's really getting it probably from both sides about the education. And then Blake Lawson earned both a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's of business administration with a concentration in marketing and entrepreneurship from the University of Tennessee, where he graduated magna cum laude from both programs. Blake was elected as Vice President of Philanthropy for the Tennessee Organization of MBAs, a charter organization in the Haslam College of Business. He holds a certificate in fundraising management from Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. Before joining KEF in 2023, he served as Director of Development for the Duncan School of Law and College of Dental Medicine at LMU, and as Assistant Director in the Vanderbilt University Owen Graduate School of Management. He volunteers as an advisory board member for the Boys and Girls Club of the Tennessee Valley. Blake also resides in Knoxville and enjoys outdoor activities and exercise in his free time. And so welcome both of them, and we'll start out with Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be with you today, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to share some things that we're doing. I'll tell you a little bit about the organization, and Blake's going to tell you more about an initiative that we're working on. So some of you may have heard of Knox Education Foundation. Others may know of us from a different name or some different programs. So Knox Education Foundation really is the merger of 2 nonprofits, Great Schools Partnership, which many of you may know for community schools that operated for a number of years. And Virginia, I think you said you were with Great Schools Partnership back in the day. And also Project Grad, many folks are familiar with that as well. So right in the middle of a pandemic, we decided to bring both of those together and form the Knox Education Foundation. So part of our job now is getting out and telling folks a little bit about what we do. And really, folks ask me, what is it that you do? But I tell them, think of us as really helping build strong schools and create good outcomes or great outcomes for students. So we're really the research and development arm of the public school system. So we're helping fund seed projects and pilot programs that strengthen what's happening in the classroom, but then also looking at innovative ideas that really have an impact on students. And I'm going to share a few of those examples before we talk about one of our upcoming projects. But the work with community schools transitioned to United Way in July of this past year, and the work with Project Grad remains with Knox Education Foundation, but is transitioning to really meet some of the changing needs of our students in the community as well. So what I was going to do is tell you, we've got our mission up there. It's really to be a catalyst for transforming public education to achieve excellent outcomes for students. And I'm going to share a little bit about our priorities for this year and those as they're transitioning into next year. So one of those is data analytics and innovation. Our focus is really on creating a continuous improvement approach to public schools, looking at new ideas, things that we can do that are innovative, that can help strengthen what's happening in the classroom. And sometimes, as I tell folks, it's in that systems change space. We want to make sure that every system is working well for the students it's meant to serve, or the teachers as well. And so through that work, some of the things that we've funded in the last couple of years, the first of those is the Region 5 strategic plan, which was looking at ways to help Knox County schools in strengthening our downtown core schools with specific metrics and outcomes, how we're going to move reading and math and graduation rates over the next 5 years. Another one of those is the 865 Academies, which I'll talk a little bit about in a few minutes. You may have heard some about that. And we're currently working with the district on a hiring and retention study, what it takes to get great educators in Knoxville and keep them in the classroom. because part of our work, again, is supporting those priority areas, the 4 priority areas of Knox County Schools, which is excellence and foundational skills, great educators in every classroom, career empowerment and preparation, and success for every student. So as we talk about our student support, it's one of our other priority areas. There's a number of things that we do. And one of those, again, is the continued work with Project Grad. So as you see the Student Opportunity and Family Support Funds, we've created a fund to help ensure that our students are qualifying for the scholarships and opportunities that exist. Tennessee is so blessed to have the Hope Scholarship, Tennessee Promise. Really, when you look at the other states across the country, there are not many that have the opportunities that we do. Well, we want to make sure that every student is qualifying for those opportunities. So through this Opportunity Fund, we assist with credit recovery. If there's any type of academic enrichment or field trip, something that's going to really help a student in their academic journey while they're in school. And a great example of that is recently the fund helped send 9 students from Austin East High School to the HOSA conference. So those were nursing students participating in their health program to make sure that they can attend that conference, because those things are very expensive. They did well in the competition. Again, it was the school's first year to have students participating in that competition. Some of the other things that we're supporting, the Knox Opportunity Fund, again, looks outside of Region 5 and supporting things in a similar way throughout the district. And the place-based fund, which Blake's going to tell you about in a little bit, which is really a systems change approach to things that are happening with playgrounds. A little bit about our educator initiatives and things that we're doing there. One of our top things that we relaunched last year was our priority-based grants program. And it's really a total quality management approach to funding things in our public schools. So we provide grants either to teachers. It can be a whole school, it can be multiple schools, it can be a department within the school system itself, whether it's the reading department or instructional technology. And really the concept behind that is creating a conduit where those great ideas can make their way up to foundation school leadership to help implement things that work well for students, new initiatives, or really change systems. Sometimes we find ways to solve something that doesn't take money, but often we find a lot of ways to fund things that are some great approaches. We're working on something right now that looks at the type of reading curriculum that's happening in tier 1, 2, and 3 instruction. Again, I'm not an educator by trade, but some things that are really impactful there. But the idea is to create that conduit, because 6,000 teachers cannot pick up the phone and call the superintendent. But if we can create a way that those ideas, and as you know from your work, those who are closest to the challenge often see the best solution. So we want to take those ideas and use that process. We found some really great things that become learning experiences for us. And at the same time, as folks say, well, should my tax dollars pay for some of those things? But what better way to make the case to the school board or a county commission for why something can be funded if we can show it saved money, it improved on-time graduation, or student academics, right? Those become those projects that then find their way into schools long-term. Again, we do support educator professional development in a lot of different ways. One Book Read City with Mayor Jacobs' office is a big piece that we do. And then we continue, really our big focus on that is literacy, math, and things that are going to help improve that, as well as the college going rate. And when I say that also means trade school, technical college, community colleges, not just four-year institution. Career and workforce development is a big piece of what we do too. So Knox Education Foundation was the convening organization behind the 865 Academies, reimagining the high school experience so that we're bringing career and workforce opportunities into the classroom and getting students out of the classroom into businesses to learn from real life experiences. It's one thing to sit in math class and talk about if a train leaves Boston, right? Versus I can sit down with a business and learn the same type of math equation or the same type of initiative with those business leaders and see how it applies to their business. It puts it more in a real world focus. And so the goal is that every student in this, and again, we're just in year 2 with the Academies model, so we have some more work to do. But by this fall, all 14 high schools will be participating in the Academies with the goal of really all students seeing career and workforce development as piece of their academic work and realigning that academic work so it meets more with career fields. Another piece that's important here with Project Grad is the Tools for Post-Secondary Success Fund. Originally, when Project Grad had the laptop telethon, this has been revised to really focus on what helps students in transitioning. So for some students, it may be a laptop. For others, it might be a pair of steel-toed work boots to go into the electrical apprenticeship program. If there's some barrier to that transition or participating in that program, this fund is helping support that. And in fact, I encourage you to tune into WATE on Thursday. So Thursday is our Project Grad Tools for Success telethon. We'll be there all day. Blake and I'll be there from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So tune in and see us on TV. So that's a little bit about us as an organization. So you've probably seen us in one way or another, but may not be as familiar with us kind of in the entity that we are today. But one of the things that's a big piece of what we do is systems change. And so Blake is with me today to share a little bit about the place-based fund is something we recently launched. So Blake, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Contrary to popular belief, I'm not a current student at Knox County. I do work for the foundation. So as Mike said, we're in the systems change business, and one of those things is the place-based fund. And a lot of you probably are curious what that is. So the place-based fund was established to address inconsistencies in play spaces across Knox County schools. It's developed a standard quality for those play spaces, and it's reduced the burden on individual schools. And when I say reduced burden, there's a good example recently that came out back in the fall. And in October, we launched this fund in December of 2023. If you've already heard about it, that's why we've done some press releases since then, posted on social media, and had some meetings in the community. But right before we announced it in October, an article came out in WBLT talking about Belmorris Elementary School and their playground, and talked about how over the past 10 years they had been raising money to meet the need for a new play space, but they had raised a little over $20,000 in 10 years. For context, and our renderings exist on the website that you can see of the vendor that we're using for our playgrounds. These playgrounds can range anywhere from $150 to $175 to $200,000. So over the course of 10 years, we had a Title I school in our community that had been trying to raise money, but was only $20,000 into that effort. And the hidden piece of that that's not written about, that's not talked about, is that the kids and the families that started the fundraising, their kids are since graduated. So all the people that did the legwork at the beginning don't even get to enjoy what they were working hard to accomplish, because not all of these communities have the same capacity. So but why does play matter? Why play? Play provides us an opportunity for physical activity, increases our development of emotional intelligence, our interaction with peers, encourages creativity and imagination. And I think the most important one is that it exposes us, exposes our children to outdoor play, exposes them to nature. And as Mike and I have frequently talked in the office and with people that we've met, while we're grateful for the advancements we've made in technology like the OWL device we have here, we're always in front of the screen. And this gives kids an opportunity to step outside and get away from the screen, because they're in front of the screen at home, they're in front of the screen when they go into the classroom, they're in front of the screen when they're hanging out with their friends. This gives us an opportunity to take away screen time and actually get outside. And I think we can all agree that that's important. But it really doesn't matter if we can't sustain this change. I know Mike mentioned we're in the systems change business, but sustaining it is probably the most important piece of this. And so what we've done on our end as a foundation is we've identified that quality standard, but a few different factors go into that. So not every elementary school that we have in Knox County is the same. They don't have the same student population. They don't have the same student size. They don't have the exact same ADA needs, and they don't have the exact same physical footprint size to place a playground. So physical space comes into play as well. So what this has done is established a standard quality, and we have some more information of that exists online as well. What KCS has done is they've established a full-time personnel to manage the play spaces and the warranties. A great example is in the past, PTAs, PTOs manage this process, right? And if someone graduates and their kid moves on and it's time for a warranty to be looked at with the playground, and it existed within an old member of the PTA group, they're no longer there. And so there was not a central office maintaining this, and now that full-time personnel can meet and fill that gap. The other thing that they've done is they've increased their maintenance fund budget by 175% for the upkeep of this. One of the things that's important is that if you look down to the next one, all new schools, elementary schools that are established in Knox County and built will require that to be a part of their budget. In the past, if a elementary school was developed, it wasn't guaranteed that a playground had to be required into the budget. Now that is a requirement. What that also means is that, Mike, we've had a recent example of this, where if an accentuating factor inhibits a existing playground from existing in its current form, that they will cover the cost to amend that and correct it and fill that playground need. So that is what's being done to sustain the change. But there is a funding status and goal for this. So the goal is that by the 2026-2027 academic year that we've got this completed by the end of that academic year. That will cost about $4.5 million. We're close to the halfway mark right now, but we do still have some funding that is required to meet that goal. And what we're currently doing is in December, when we launch this at Fountain City Elementary School, we announced phase 1, which impacts 7 schools and 11 playgrounds. The reason those two numbers are different is because certain schools have different needs. So equipment needs for a 5-year-old is not the exact same as a 5th grader. And so while those 7 schools are being impacted, that does mean potentially multiple playgrounds on one of those individual school sites to meet those needs. That phase 1 is $1.4 million. Of those 7 schools, 6 of the 7 are Title I schools, so 51% or more free and reduced lunch. So these were determined at the highest need. We will have additional phases. We're still in the process of developing those, but as those phases get developed and as those schools are announced, you'll be able to see that by following the foundation.
When we wanted to save time for questions, so give you a quick overview of who we are and then talk about the new initiative. So,
Are those playgrounds available to the public in general out of school hours, or are those school playgrounds that locked up, or?
Yeah, these are going to be community spaces, and obviously, I think with certain schools there will be different communities that are interacting with these playgrounds, but yes, open to the community as well.
I have a question. 865 Academies. My son is at West High School. The incoming freshman class next year is going to be participating. Upperclassmen will not. Is that correct?
yeah, you want me to take that?
Yeah,
Yes, I've got a little more knowledge on that one. Yes, because it starts with the freshman seminar with freshmen and then it builds up. So it's unfortunately those students that are already further along in their high school career would not be participating. They'll receive some benefit, but not the full benefit that would be if they were coming as freshmen.
When they come, just a follow-up question. When
Sure.
they are not a part of the program, will that affect their college? I guess I'm trying to understand what
No.
865 is going to look like and how the trajectory is for it.
No, that's a great question. No, it would not, because this is where I think folks find it a little confusing, and for me it was too initially. It's not a magnet school. It's not an application process to any school. We are simply realigning the curriculum at schools and bringing businesses in to bring those real world hands-on experiences into their classroom. So students will have the opportunity to participate in the career field of their interest in their school without, again, having to apply to move schools. But it will not mean that they didn't get the same core content or that it changes anything with their school. Instead, it puts it more into a real world experience with the goal of getting them out of the classroom more and into different businesses and things out there in the community, learn from those experts, and then also bringing those folks into schools. So you could see, for example, Wes, you went with me to Nashville for a visit for some of their academies. In one of their schools, they had a classroom that was an actual ambulance where students were learning be EMT technician. Now, while that may not meet the needs for every student, there were other career fields and things in that school. So part of their classwork, rather than again going to health class and I pull it out of the book, I'm actually doing it hands-on in the school, if that makes sense. Yeah, and there was a question over here.
Yeah, Blake, for the shortfall in the playground funding, are there state or federal, regional sources that you can tap into, write a grant for?
Yeah.
Opportunities there?
There are. So we receive funding from a variety of different ways. I describe to people the ways that we can receive funding are from individuals. We can receive it from corporate support and foundation support, but there's also grants both from federal and state agencies, but also private agencies that are granting organizations as well. So that's something too. We have contract grant writers in the team that's looking into that. We're actually updating some language so that we can submit grants for that. So that process does exist and it is taking place.
So the 7 schools you listed, after those get completed and built, what's kind of the long-term project of all the other schools in the area?
Yeah, so I think, the ideas for these to be completed by the start of this upcoming year in the fall, for those to be completed. And as we move forward into phase 2, phase 3, the next highest need schools will be determined and then put out onto that list publicly, but those have not yet been established. So that's the long-term goal. The idea is for the fund to be completed by the end of the 2026-2027 academic year and bring all play spaces up in Knox County up to par, and then maintain from there and establish a system that can sustain that moving forward.
So all schools are part of the plan, not just.
Correct, yeah, and then there are some schools that aren't in need of a playground update right now,
so-
correct, yeah.
Correct.
And there's some that I'm in the process is, yeah, I can slide over here if you need. So it's on, there's some schools that, again, they're looking at warranty information. I think the potential for new school being built, all of that's being factored in. So in phase two, so the work on phase two will start this fall to determine who falls into phase two, because some of those may shift to three, if that makes sense. Or if you've got a brand new playground, then obviously you're not on the list because you're up to where you need to be. Yeah.
So maintaining those playgrounds will be an operating budget going forward as well?
The goal is to get there. We think that we can with both with warranty and that. So while it's not in there yet, the 175% increase was a big step. That means PTAs aren't having to fundraise for mulch. We're knocking those kinds of things out, but the goal is to get there. We believe that we can.
Couple more, anybody?
So what if an elementary school has another private type of foundation or private funding? Are you guys gonna come in and kind of cover that extra? Or how do you evaluate, you know?
Yeah.
Keeping up.
Yeah, so we could, so Fountain City contributed, so they're one of the ones on, I think they're on this list, am I right? Fountain City's on the list. So they had some funding committed, but it was only about halfway what was needed to get them there. So they contributed that back to the fund to help get there, because theirs was in high need as well. So if there are those that have that support, that's great. They can certainly be a part of that. And we've been having conversations with schools that have the ability to help do that, because that can help move that along. Yeah, yes.
Are you doing anything to take this statewide?
That we're not, that's a great question, because I know it's a need. It's, you know, and one of the things that we learned in this process, and I was sharing with Virginia, that it's in the early 1980s with budget constraints, this was removed from the budget. So it was in the budget way back, and it was, well, we'll put it back in. Well, guess what? It's like anything in public funding. When it gets tight, it doesn't get back in. So the goal is if we can get it all up to the basic standard of where it needs to be, then it's manageable. But that's great. I think it's needed.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Frank with the Joy of Music School. We have a relationship with you, and thank you for being a good partner. I have a question. Who influences your thinking? How do you develop the trajectory for plans? And maybe you could talk about how you decided to get your hands into playgrounds. And eventually, when you're finished with this project, I would recommend that you get into school music programs and do a similar kind of renovation, because they are that need.
Yeah, you know what, I don't disagree with you. And really the way that we look at that is, it is looking at specific needs. If we're doing our job, we're working ourselves out of a job, right? Because our goal is to solve problems as an organization and bring folks to the table to do that. But you're right, having worked for several other education foundations and also serve on the board of directors for the National Association of Education Foundations, there are a lot of districts that are covering that for students. And music is a huge piece, both with learning, but you bring up a great point. So as we have our meetings, both with school leadership and others, we look at needs and identify, and that's one that has come up, but I'll continue to keep talking about that because I see it as a need too. I think we have.
Yeah.
Yes.
The brochure mentions 43% of Knox County students test at or above the reading level, which means 57% are below the reading level. And nationwide, the statistics are even worse. It's a national embarrassment and a national tragedy. Is anybody trying to figure out why kids aren't learning how to read?
That's it's a great question. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I actually, last week, at the National Education Foundation Conference, I participated in a session on the science of reading. And so excited to say that when that was produced, our numbers are better. Again, not good enough, but are better than when that brochure was put together. Knox County is shifting more to the science of reading. So to put that in a nutshell, because I could talk a whole session on that, it's the way that you and I learn to read. Phonics, learning phonics, and spending time on phonics, as opposed to memorization and recognition and some of the things that we've been doing over the last few years. With the science of reading, with schools that have fully implemented that, and it's not just phonics or other pieces, we see that it moves reading not only for, kids in upper socioeconomic communities, but even in the low socioeconomic communities, because it makes a difference. Part of the reason we see the gaps now is parents who can afford tutors and others are paying for that to catch kids up. So we're in the process of transitioning that here in Knox County. One of our grants that we're funding this year is looking at that curriculum and that tier 1, 2, and 3 instruction and changing the way that they do that so that it's more phonics based. I think we're gonna see some really good results on that, and there's a good movie that if you haven't had a chance to go to screening called The Right to Read, work with some folks at UT, and it really explains the way that works. So I think the future ahead for that looks better, but you're right, it's for many, many years, we were not doing what we needed to.
Anybody else? Thank you.
No, thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for your thoughts. It takes a village to support our kids, and